YouTube. So today, my piece of shit Focus ST, we're gonna be changing out the rear wheel bearings. I just got these parts in earlier today. It's just after the 4th of July. So I'm gonna try to do a little bit of a tutorial video, but also it's my first time doing it. So, you know, if I run into any hiccups, I'm gonna let you guys know, but I'm gonna try to document the process and hopefully it's somewhat entertaining watching me fuck this up. So let's get to work. So, got you guys mounted on a little bit of a chest mount action inside my lovely dirty garage. Figured I'd try this different setup and basically show you the process for what I do working on the car. So first, take a swig and let's grab some tools. So I'm gonna be working on the rears today, so I'm just gonna break these loose. Gotta do both sides here. And these boxes are my brakes that I'll be out putting on, and we got the wheel bearings in there, so I'll open that up in a minute. Time to get it pumped up in the air. I'll probably just get on all 4 corners set up because I'm gonna want to, it's gonna be easier to work on it. So this is just about the easiest part of the whole thing. So to give you guys a bit of a look, basically here's the back of the wheel bearing with the speed sensor there. So I'm gonna be using the same sensor, so I'm gonna have to unbolt that and basically disconnect that from the actual wheel bearing. But there's some E-Torques on the back here, so I'll figure out what size those are, what those actually are. And it looks like basically that's bolted through the dust shield and to the other side, you know, where the actual studs are. So basically I'm gonna have to, yeah, like I said, take the caliper off. Don't mind my feet. Take the caliper off, which I think is just a couple boltsy bolts. So I'll figure out which ones we gotta take off and then take this caliper off. I'm not gonna take it off the lines or anything like that, just kind of get it out of the way and then start unbolting back here, and then hopefully we should have a little drop-in replacement action. All right guys, so we need a little size 7 inside of these dudes. There's a bolt right in the back side of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and back those out, and I should be able to wiggle off the caliper. And that should leave behind the pads, so I'll just pop those off right after. So I'm gonna start undoing these. All right, we need some more juice, boys. All right, guys. So I wanted to stop here and explain it. It took me a second to figure this out. So to get this bolt out of here, right? This the roll bar, the end of roll bar was completely in the way. So what I did is I pretty much just jacked the whole control arm up to change the angle. And now I can fit it on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and twist this guy off. All right, so I had to use this little guy instead of like one of these ratchets. It's just like a mini breaker because the head was too big to fit with the actual sway bar end link in the way. But now this sucker is basically, I can spin it right out basically by hand. So just gonna finish the job. So now I want to show you guys what I've been doing for this back piece. So I've just been using this little 7mm, and then you can slot it back into here like so, and then I'm using, so basically the problem is that this end link is so close, so to get around that I've just been grabbing it. I'm just grabbing it on my bit so I don't fuck up the actual bolt, but I'm just rotating it until I can get one of my other tools under here. So now the next step we're missing here is to take off this spring guy. like so. The bottom one is slightly more stuck. I'm gonna set it down just so I remember exactly the kind of orientation. So I slid out the dudes in the top. They're kind of a bitch, but the threads are actually not that deep. I was spinning for longer than I needed to. It was like kind of vacuum sealed in there, so I'll probably like lube these up again and thread them back in later. So now we should be able to pry off this caliper. It would help if I removed the parking brake application. That's gonna make it really hard to get off. See, it's always the silly shit. It's like, how do I forget that? So now that the parking brake isn't clamping down like hard as a motherfucker, we can gently pop that off. And I don't want to bend this too much, so that's just gonna kind of sit there. And we got pad number 1. While we're here, we can kind of inspect them. I mean, the pads don't look amazing, but they're good enough. Oh. Another thing, before I go too far, I want to show you guys this. So just take a listen to the current wheel bearing. Oh shit, it's actually not that bad. Hold on. Okay, it's pretty crunchy. And now I have a new one right here that I just unboxed. Nothing, man. Nothing. That's how it's supposed to sound. And the one on the car has a little bit of play as well. So this is kind of going to solve all the issues in the rear, I pray. To take off the rotor, you got to take off this bracket. So there's just some 13 millimeters, 2 of them. Take that off. Should have full access to the wheel bearing once I get this off, and the E-Torx bits on the back. So after this, should be easy. All right, guys. So this side's out too. The other side, this rotor really didn't want to come off. All right, guys. So we came back after a break from yesterday. So had some difficulties getting off this brake rotor. Originally I was using these lug nuts to protect the threads here, but because I am going crazy with the hammer right now. However, I'm replacing these, so I don't really care. I just got the other one off. It took some pretty savage swings and a lot of PB blasters, so if you're gonna do this job, be prepared. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to smash the shit out of this thing and see if I can get this one off now. And just so you guys know, I'm trying to hit just like kind of on these edges here, but I'm gonna go back and forth to each side until it just breaks free. Right now, it's mostly just rusted around the center of this hub, so I'm gonna try to snap it out of there. There it goes. Yeah. And it's a good thing I got new brakes, because that rotor's pretty marred up now. So now you can see what we're working with. So now I should be able to pretty much pop this guy off. You can hear how fucked this one is. That's terrible. We can compare it to the other side. The other side is not nearly as bad, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's just a tiny little sound, but actually it sounds pretty smooth. So I got to get the bolts out on this one. On the other side, I already did them. But this is gonna be the same story at this step, where this guy's gonna be pretty crusted on there. So yeah, I'm gonna take a look and see what has the best impact on this. Slowly but surely, boys. Slowly but surely. In the meantime, I actually got the other side off. This one is just, as you can see, I'm brutalizing this thing. Like, my studs even came out. This thing's getting wrecked, so I'm on a mission at this point. All right, let's let this thing drip like some nice steak, and come back in I don't know, 30 minutes, and I bet you this will just come the rest of the way off. Like right now, it's really stuck. If I let it sit for a little bit, this thing's gonna be toasted. All right, YouTube, continuing forward. Got this side off. Absolutely fucking mangled it, so there's probably a total of 500 hits with this hammer on this piece, so be prepared. That's all I have to say. Be prepared. Probably have a torch on standby. All the good stuff. And so right now I really just want to get this surface kind of nice, so that way I don't have any issues with you know, getting the parts back in place. So I'm gonna do this, go ahead and put the new wheel bearing into place and bolt everything up, and I'm gonna use Loctite also on each of the bolts, just like they did from factory. I have red Loctite, but close enough. And then I'm going to finish by installing the new brakes tomorrow. All right guys, I'm catching up with you. Basically, got the new rotor on here. And so you want to put after we did the hub, you want to put your rotor on next. Make sure you use some brake parts cleaner, spray it off. And I took a wire brush to the carrier and also to the caliper. Just try to get some of the brake dust and the rust off of there, get it cleaned up. And now you want to put the rotor on first, then this bracket here. So I'm about to bolt that up and use a little bit of Loctite on there just to be safe. And then we can go ahead and put the caliper with the pads on next. And pretty much at these points here and here where the pad slides in, you want to use just a little bit of the lubricant that they provide. And then same thing on these slider bolts that go into here, you put a little bit of lubricant, kind of working in there, just so everything can move nice and smoothly. And yeah, I just have this lug nut on here just to hold the rotor from moving, like wobbling back and forth right now. But for the most part, we're getting pretty close. So I'm just gonna get these kind of hand tight or almost. Also make sure these threads are cleaned up. You can take a wire brush to them, but yeah, I'm just gonna get these kind of like hand tightened, so that way I know I can thread both sides in. And then, all right, so I'm gonna slowly get these cranked into place. Those are nice and tight. I'm gonna look up the torque spec and give them one last crank. All right, so I'm just test fitting here. Basically I use this tool. So for our brake cylinder, it actually rotates. So this guy's really nice because it'll back up against here and then it'll rotate to push the plunger in a little farther. So I just test fit and now I have enough space to clear with the pads. So I'm gonna go ahead and lubricate those spots like I told you guys, and then move on to the next step. So I'll basically get this seated on there and then we can go ahead and put the slider bolts in. Something like this, and it'll spread when you put it in there, so I'm not too concerned about getting perfect coverage. So now I'm installing the spring clip. I think I like to do this top one first, and then really what we got to do is bend this back into place. Don't know if I can really do it with one hand, but you need this bottom piece to get behind here and also to get in this hole with you know, that part. So It's not horribly difficult to do. You just need, you know, some needle nose pliers like this or something. And then once you get it in there, you can kind of, you want to make sure that this is like fully pressed into this hole. So you might want to tap it with a little hammer or something like that. So I'm going to try to get this. I kind of need both hands, so I'll get this done real quick. All right, so we got the clip on. Unfortunately, I scraped off a little bit of the paint here. Just this clip was being an absolute bitch, but got it on there. So now I'm going to put on the hub-centric ring for my wheels and pretty much seat up the wheels, and then I'm gonna go move and do the front rotors and pads. Once we have all those done, I'm gonna go ahead and actually take this thing for a test drive and try to bed in these brake pads. So for these fronts, it's a pretty similar process. Take these caps off, and you know, we can take off basically the bolts back here. Let's see, take off these bolts back here, and basically the clip up front. We want to get this caliper off, and then we're gonna scrub it down a little bit. Alrighty boys, so we got off the caliper, kind of scrubbed it up just a little bit. Now I'm taking a 18, and there are a couple bolts back here. So we're gonna undo this, and that'll basically get off our carrier, and then we can go ahead and replace the rotor. So these rotors need to be replaced. I think they're slightly warped. So, but these ones seem a lot easier to get off. I just need to make sure to take off my hub ring as well. So I'll get a screwdriver to take this guy off, and otherwise pop this off, pop the rotor off, clean the new rotors, which I already did, and install them. So I'll catch up with you right when I get to the next step here. So I got it off. As you can see, it's pretty nasty, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the wire brush to it, clean it out, and get it looking nice and pretty again. I would highly recommend you actually wear gloves, by the way. Hopefully this isn't carcinogenic. I'm sure it's not good. And thank God these are not rusted on like the rears were. I think these were replaced a little bit earlier, but you can see it's pretty bad. It's pretty rusty still. I'm gonna try to clean all this up as well, so this mating surface is a lot smoother, ideally. Alright guys, so that's a lot cleaner now, which is good. I think I'm just gonna spray off the dustpan because it looks kind of gross. So we got the new rotor on. Make sure it's the right side. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use some Loctite on the bolts and put in the carrier bracket back. Then once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and compress this piston, and then we can go ahead and put the new pads in. So we're already almost done. All right guys, before I go too far, I wanna kind of explain what I did here. So basically this, the back side has, this pad has these triple clips. So I found it easiest to kind of pinch them together with like a needle nose, something like that, and just try to press it in. You really want to make sure you're not letting your brake line hold the weight of the caliper though. So I tried to rest it kind of up here on the rotor. I'm probably going to wipe this down one more time before I actually take the car for a drive. But you can see now I just have to lubricate the sliders and go ahead and get them screwed back in. Now it's important to remember the orientation. So these guys go in there like this, but you got to make sure these tops are behind the tabs and that the centerpiece seats underneath this circle. So I'm going to try to figure out the best way to do that. I'm not sure how to get this fully loaded yet. Sorry, I was holding it backwards. I don't know why. why I thought that was gonna work, but pretty much, honestly, not that hard. You can just get these two in there, and then you just bend this out a little bit. I did it by hand. I didn't even need a tool. So I might just give this a couple little love taps, just to be certain. That we're fully seated. Yeah, we're definitely in there. All right, guys, this is caliper with new pads installed. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wipe this down one more time, and then I'm gonna do the other side, and then let's go for a drive and actually get these bedded in.